What's up? What's going on? Anybody want to know the difference? Anybody want to talk about the reality of man versus man? Or shall I say, man versus subject? Or man versus person? Man versus individual? Going on, man versus citizen. You want to know the difference? Well, there is a difference. And the Supreme Court of the United States of America acknowledged that there is a distinct and complete separation between your legal entity and the natural man. Natural man is what God created with your uppercase, lowercase name that you write on all your documents. You sign it, however you put your John Henry down on the paper. What God gave you, what your parents gave you, that's your God-given natural name, your surname. When you were born, which I won't get into the semantics with the words and all of that. Just get into the basics. When you were born natural man, even though you were a baby. Man is not described as a young or adult or middle-aged. Man is man. It's like male is man. Female is man. You are man. Mankind. So when you're in the hospital or wherever you're at, could be a midwife birthed you. But at some point in time, your parents, your informants, they sign you over to the government, the corporation, Mr. Smith, Mr. Anderson. They sign you over without being fully apprised of the repercussions and the consequences that come with that, because it's what everybody does. But I was taught when I was growing up that if your friends jumped off a bridge, would you do it too? And me being the smart ass that I am, I said, well, it depends on if it would be fun or not. But that's not the point, you know what I mean? So that's the same thing my mom told me when I said that. You are always going to be a smart ass, aren't you? You little son of a beach nut gum. Well, she didn't even cuss at me. But she said, you are always going to be a little smart aleck, aren't you? And I said, well, that's the way God made me. Well, probably. But after you're born, you are more than likely given a birth certificate with your name, your footprint, maybe your handprint. Your mom and dad signed it, or maybe your mom and dad didn't sign it, whatnot. But there is a certificate of birth, of live birth. That's another issue, but let's just stick with the certificate of birth. And then after that, that certificate of birth is converted not converted, but it's advanced. It begins the process, the simple but yet complicated process of giving you a social security number. Once you have the documentation that you have been born and that there's a title on you could say, like it's a car, I guess you could say. There's a title, a piece of paper that says that you exist. You weren't born with a piece of paper, a scroll stuffed up your butthole, and they pulled it out and opened it up and said, oh, this one's named this. No, your parents give you the name. They tell the powers that be, this is my child. blah, blah, blah. Joseph John Smith. Well, then when you get your birth certificate, your name is in all capital letters, which starts the process of your legal entity that you become. God created man from the moment that you were conceived in the womb. That life, that explosion of life, that light, that flash of light that happens when the sperm busts through the egg wall and life is created. There's a burst of energy. A whole nother story, another topic for another day. But you are provided with that all capital name because they have now converted your God-given natural existence into a second man-made version of you, which is your all caps name. You have both. You've always had both. You will always keep both until you change that fact. But so you have the two documents, the birth certificate and the Social Security card, and you get to go home to your mommy and daddy, your bouncing little baby boy, bouncing little baby girl. You get to go to your mommy and daddy. You go home, but legally, your mommy and daddy don't have full rights to you because they, without knowing it, signed the rights over to Big Daddy. Big Daddy, you can call him whatever you want. You can call him the government, you can call it whatever, but I like to refer to Big Daddy government as Lucifer himself. And so, later on in life, maybe not later on in life, but they jab you up with some stuff to say, oh, we got to keep our person safe. Well, let me back up a little bit. The Social Security card that you receive, there's a lot of rumor and conjecture and innuendo and speculation, whatever word, that when you're issued a Social Security card, you are your name is sold on the market, bonds, whatnot, whatever, and a specific amount of money has been invested in your being, your productive value, what you're going to do for the system, the corporation, because the corporation known as the United States of America is or a municipality, which is a I'm drawing a blank right now. A municipality is oh shit. It's what the fuck the word I'm looking for? It's not. All the 50 states are subsidiaries. They're on the micro, the macro. They're just a step under the macro. You know, the states. There are territories. There, that's the word I was looking for. Territories. So whatever territory you were birthed in, you belong to that micro corporation known as the state of. Here comes the goddamn fucking message as soon as I get on fucking line, man. Fucking motherfuckers. Ugh. Fucking cocksuckers. So the Social Security card is created allegedly, it doesn't matter, but that money or that is to take care of you as the owned property that you are, like medical care, schooling, whatnot, everything to raise and to have that child grow from infancy to 18 years of age, and they protect you, the municipalities, the laws and whatnot, it's supposed to. So their investment in that child, that man, that productive future slave, 14th Amendment slave. Along with that Social Security card and the birth certificate, it's implied consent that you are part of the corporation. The corporation now has jurisdiction over you, your personam, your body, your personam. And so when you go to school, for say, or they jab you up, and your parents might say, oh no, I don't want my kid to be jabbed up. The government and Big Daddy says, oh yeah, it's the law, you have to do that. It's because you've already given up your rights to have any say in that baby boy, that baby girl's existence, because you've registered your new baby with Big Daddy. The legal definition of registered is that you gave away the rights. You abandoned. That's what the word registration, legally defined through legalese, the Black's Law Dictionary. It's you abandoned the property. You are considered property. That's another definition for man in the legal terminology. So your mommy and daddy might not want you jabbed up, but you will probably get jabbed up, and if they fight it, there'll be a legal battle and whatnot, whatever. Let's just say they go along with it and they jab you up. And then you get a few years older, you get, I don't know how many jabs, 60, 70 jabs within the first 4 or 5 years of your life. And then you go to school and your parents register you for school, for public schools, which is publicly funded. All of that comes through the Sustakay V trust accounts of all of the cattle, the cash cows, the slaves, citizens. So you are abandoning your child once again in the public school system. So you really have no say in any of the things that your child, they are attending public schools. Because our part, public schools have your children more than you have spending time with your children. You probably get about 5 or 6 hours of time with them when they're, most of their day is in school, and then the rest of the day is, it's 24 hours they are sleeping. 8 to 10 hours sleeping, about 7 to 8 hours in school. What's left for mommy and daddy? Very little. So fast forward a little bit, and you say your kid wants to get a job, or no, let's say your kid wants to play sports. Big Daddy says, well, we can stick our finger up your kid's butt and check its nuts and make sure its heart's good, and not because we don't want our property getting hurt playing a sport that's really not necessary, because that could prevent that property from growing up, becoming 18 years of age, and getting a job and paying its franchise fees to the macro corporation. So the government, Big Daddy, will protect the safety of that property, owned property, because they have a vested interest in it, and they want it to return. They want a return on their investment. They want that property to contribute to the coffers of the Sustakay V trust accounts. So okay, let's move forward. Then your kid wants to get a job. If he's under 18 years of age, again, you have to get Big Daddy's permission. A permit, legally defined, permit means a permission slip from Big Daddy. So then your child goes to its first job working at another corporation, say McDonald's or wherever. One of the first jobs, usually fast food, whatnot. And so now they are contributing to the macro corporation by producing an income that's taxable. And a portion of that taxable income is taken out of their earnings and it ends up in the treasury. So you say, well, then when they turn 18, men, the male version of man, they're required to register with the Selective Service, the draft. So the government protects interest for 18 years and makes sure that mommy and daddy don't abuse it, because if you abuse your child before it's 18 years of age, house or whatnot, Big Daddy will come after you, even though it's your property. It's a child, it's not property, but legally defined, it's property. Technically, legally, not even technically, legally and lawfully, you gave up the rights to have any say in your children because you unknowingly signed them off. So now your child is 18 years of age, and war breaks out. Now they send your kid off to war because they need members of the military to be of fighting age, which is 18. So there you go. You got Big Daddy protecting their investment up until it's 18 years old. And as soon as it's 18 years old, they don't mind if it goes and gets a bullet in them, puts a bullet in somebody else, because all countries are corporations. And if you've never read the book 1984 by George Orwell, you probably should, because what that is basically a fictional version of what this world is all about. And when the United States of America, the corporation, goes to another country and it attacks, invades, let's say, Iraq. All it is a corporate takeover, stealing the resources and executing their employees so they can have the oil production, they can have the gold reserves, they can put their CEO in power of that corporation. And if you guys don't look at it as a corporation, maybe you should, because that's what they all are. So when you get a job and you're contributing to, or not contributing, when they're taking taxes out of your earnings, micro corporation, because you are legally and lawfully defined through your all capital name, your all caps name, is that you are owned property. A corpse oration, which you break down the word of corpse oration, and that you're a talking corpse, because you're a legal entity that's a dead man walking. Your natural man really doesn't exist. That becomes the construct of your mind. And the subject matter is that you become a member of a corporation, no different than an employee of Walmart. Walmart, in business, you give a portion of your Walmart paycheck to them so they can fund all of their corporate takeovers, because you always want your corporation to be the biggest one on the. So take it back to before you're 18, you're 15, 16, whatever. Get your driver's license. Now go down and you ask Big Daddy government to allow you the permission to drive on the roads that are meant for all of mankind. God created the land. Man paved the roads. But man now puts restrictions on the roads and says that you have to have a driver's license, which is a commercial definition under the UCC, which is the Unified Commercial Code. So you are required to pay a fee and attach restrictions to it, which is basically converting your God-given liberty into a privilege that they can take away because you went too fast or you didn't put a sticker on your on that license plate, that flag that's on the back of your vehicle, that's a flag, and or whatnot. If you leave that piece of property out in front of your house with a flat tire, here comes Big Daddy with a tow truck taking their property off of the road and putting it in an impound yard until you, the one who's been authorized to maintain and operate it, comes and takes care of the issue that they don't like, and you can either do that or not. If you don't go and fix the issue, it sits at the impound yard, they will sell the property and you will not receive any return on your investment because you registered your vehicle on your title. A copy that you have, it's a certificate of title. The government holds the original title. They claim ownership. They're just allowing you to operate it. And they expect you to maintain it with a flag on there and a sticker that pays a fee to give you the right to have that vehicle on the road. So you get your driver's license after you take a test and they give you the permission that you can operate a vehicle, and they assume that you're going to use that vehicle to go back and forth to work to earn a wage so they can take a cut of your money. Well, again, on that driver's license, it's going to be in all caps spelling of your name, which is different than how you spell your name, because you got uppercase, lowercase, uppercase, lowercase. That's how you spell your name. You don't never spell your name in all capital letters, because that's the difference between legal and natural. Legal is the 14th Amendment. Legal and lawful is associated with your 14th Amendment constitutional rights. Their privileges and protections. You lost your God-given natural rights when you accepted and gave implied consent to be governed by Big Daddy. And so, having a legal all caps name, you give them implied consent that you're part of the you're part of the city, the municipalities. The federal government gave the authority to the territories and the municipalities within those territories to create their own codes and statutes, ordinances, whatever they call law, which is man-made. The only true law, the only real absolute law, is the Ten Commandments. And the Ten Commandments are associated with natural man. Natural man should have the moral purpitude and the ability to maintain his character within the confines of the simple Ten Commandments. So that's a 14th Amendment citizen is required to adhere to social norms, to maintain a civilized society. Staying in your lane, following the speed limits, but you should be able to do that, or you should do that as natural man. You should have the moral fortitude to understand that you're not out here to cause harm, injury, or loss to your fellow mankind or create a victim of any sort. But too many people have forgotten that. Different story, different day, different subject. But overall, mankind has allowed and is okay and given over their, or handed over their anonymity, their sovereignty to a legal entity known as government. The word government broke down to derive it. The origins comes from Latin. Part of it. To govern is to control. Mente is Latin, or I believe maybe Spanish. I can't remember if it's Spanish or Latin. But mentes, whatever foreign language it is, refers to the mind. So government translates into control your mind. Politics translates into two simple words: poly, meaning many, and ticks, meaning bloodsuckers. Political government, many bloodsuckers controlling your mind. Translation, you don't have to spell it with T-R-A-N-S-lation. You should probably spell it with T-R-A-N-C-E-lation, translation, because the English language is a bastardized version of all the language of Earth, and it was created by Lucifer himself to deceive mankind. Probably, from my knowledge, there's 350 languages that make up the English language, and probably about 4 or 5 languages of those 350 are predominant within the English language, which is Latin, English, Old English, Germanic, Greek, and I can't remember the other one, but you can look it up if you don't believe me, because I was watching a show earlier, and too bad I wasn't able to be a part of it, because I could probably have contributed to the topic a little bit, but I'm sure I wouldn't have been welcome. That's okay. So the English language is the most complicated language on earth to learn, or to read, write, and or learn, because you have one word that sounds phonetically the same, but it has complete and total different meanings. One word, for example, is right. Well, has different spellings and different meanings. You can write me a letter spelled different than I know you're right, or do I go right? Write me a letter. Am I right? See, that's the same phonetic, but different meanings. Other languages like Spanish or whatnot are very rudimentary, and there's not a lot of confusion with the language. A word is what it is. It means exactly what it is. But English is not a natural God-given. When he separated man, their own languages, he didn't create the English. The world that are natural God. Whenever the Roman Empire's henchmen, aka law enforcement officers, decide to violate your rights, and the only time you have affirmation that your rights were violated is if a federal judge affirms that. Because cops, law enforcement, they will violate your rights, what you believe are rights. My rights, my rights. They'll violate your privileges and protections, because privileges and protections are there to be given or to taken at the will of those that you gave consent to govern you. And the only way that you can get your God-given natural rights back is to correct your status, taking it back to the days that your mommy and daddy gave you away without your permission. And once you figure out that mommy and daddy gave you away, you can say, you committed fraud. I retract my implied consent. Move yourself from the all caps legal name. You know, I'm not getting into the detailed breakdown of it, but that's pretty much the gist of it. And if anybody has any questions, of course they don't. Of course, nobody has any questions just watching me, huh? Is it not worth talking about? You vote. You again affirm that you want another man to rule over you, to be your overlord, instead of you behaving properly and only holding yourself accountable to God Almighty for your immoral acts. An immoral act versus breaking the law. An immoral act, say, through the Ten Commandments, or the law through man-made law. Let's just take drinking and driving for an example. Say you go out and you have a few pops. You know, your moral DNA knows that you should not be drinking and driving, because the potential for harming another is much greater. But you don't think of that situation when you are drinking and then you intend to drive. Your first thought is, oh, I might get caught by Johnny. Your first thought isn't, oh, I might crash my car because my reflexes are impaired and my reaction times are not what they should be because I'm inebriated. You don't think like that. You think of, oh, I'm going to get caught by Johnny Law. Well, let's just say you do it anyways and you get caught by Johnny Law. You didn't hurt anybody. You just broke a man-made law. A code, a statute, an ordinance. It's not, you didn't break God's law because you didn't hurt anybody. The state of, or the county of, cannot be a victim. You can't put the county on the state on the witness stand. You can put a representative of them, but that's not quite the state of. The state of is like it's a state of mind. You know, it's not, as long as you buy into it, you are part of the state of wherever you're at, or county of. So you're getting caught for drinking and driving and not smashing your car or causing anybody's property damage. You just crossed over a line and the cop pulled you over and he smelled alcohol and you went to jail, and now you're being punished. You're financially devastated. You can lose your livelihood. There's a lot of consequences that come with that. It was an immoral act that had legal and lawful consequences attached to it because you agreed to those societal norms to not drink and drive. Now, a natural man, a guy with moral fortitude, knows he shouldn't drink and drive, doesn't think, oh, I shouldn't drink and drive because I'm going to get caught by Johnny Law. He thinks and understands, or comprehends, I don't like understand, comprehends that if he was to get behind the wheel there could be a potential situation where you could hurt somebody in an automobile accident. So your moral compass should restrict you from making such a decision. And if you go against your natural instinct to not drink and drive, and you don't get caught, doesn't mean that you should be scot-free. You committed an immoral act, and your Lord and Savior, your God Almighty, your ultimate creator, Yahweh is the only one that should be able to forgive you for your moral sin. Was it really a sin? Did the tree fall in the forest? Did anybody hear? The tree falls in the forest and there's nobody around. Did it really make a sound? But my point is that you should be morally sound in your character to not behave like that, not to take a chance and put another in harm, even yourself. But I could go on and on. I'm probably not explaining things the way that I would love to if I was to sit down and create videos and topics and whatnot. This is just off the top of my head while I'm sitting here driving down the road thinking about it. So if any of you got any questions about the difference between natural man and the 14th Amendment object, go ahead and ask. Because within the legal definitions, within the Black's Law Dictionary, which is they don't use the Webster's Dictionary or Merriam-Webster's Dictionary or the scholastic versions. They use the legal Black's Law Dictionary within the courts. And those legal definitions are what they go by, and that's the language of legalese. So you can correct your status and remove the 14th Amendment citizenship because you have dual citizenships. You have whatever state you were born in, say Michigan for me, I'm a Michigan. And unfortunately, I'm a 14th Amendment citizen, which literally is just a United States citizen. So when you cross a border, they say, what is your citizenship? You automatically say a U.S. citizen. But if you were to put in change in, you would correct your status through the State Department through a passport application that will correct your status if you mark and check off the proper box and fill out the application correct and accurately. Your 14th Amendment status is rejected and revoked, and you don't want it. You give it back to them because you know that they committed fraud, which is giving them implied consent that you really don't want to give them. So when you cross a border, after you get rid of that federal citizenship, you would just simply say, I'm a Michigander, or an Ohioan, or an Illinois, whatever the fuck it is for Illinois, an Illinoiser, a Wisconsinite, a Kentuckian, a Tennessean, a Texan, a Floridian, a New Yorker. So you can regain your God-given natural rights when you correct your status. And if you want to change your, you want to say, I'm no longer a driver, I want to travel. There's more to it, but you can get rid of that driver's license. You can file paperwork. Every state has a form that you can fill out that you are turning in your license. You relinquish your license back to the state of. as long as that contractor's driver's license isn't suspended, you don't owe any money on it, you're not in a violation of the contract, and it's in good standing, you can cancel out any implied consent through rescinding that agreement. You can also take your automobiles out of the hands of the state by unregistering your vehicles. Another process. So when a cop pulls you over and you don't have a plate, whatnot, your VIN number will show up, no record found. There's a lot of things that you can do to become free man and not have to bow down to Big Daddy. But see, it's a dangerous, it's the difference between natural sovereign man versus 14th Amendment citizen man, in quotations, is the difference between dangerous freedom and peaceful slavery. It all boils down to choice. Do you want to be owned property where you have no say in anything that you own? Or do you want to be a child of God without Lucifer sticking his nose in your business? That's the difference. And if you don't want to know the difference and you're content being that peaceful slave, you should probably remain that peaceful slave, because dangerous freedom isn't for everybody. It becomes a lifestyle, it becomes a way of life. You can't jump in and out of peaceful slavery and back into dangerous freedom. It's not a revolving door. It's either one or the other. And when you choose danger, you might as well just accept the fact that you're going to have negative encounters with the Roman Empire's henchmen, because this country is, the corporation is a Roman Empire entity. All roads lead back to Rome. Courts are not criminal courts, they're administrative courts, because unless there's a victim, there's no crime. So all courts are ministerial courts. Yeah, well, I'm going home and going to bed. I'm not fucking going on and doing no fucking live tonight. I'm going home and going to bed. I still got another 2 hours to go. By the time I get home and take a shower, it's time to go to bed. 2 days in a row. I'm working all day. So, I know it's a subject that most people are afraid of, but some people are interested in it. And I watched a video earlier today. Not earlier today, but not long ago. It seems like somebody's asking questions, but the people that they know don't want to come off with the information. They want to give generic answers and tiptoe around it and whatnot. I don't mind sharing the information, because most people won't have the motivation or the drive or determination to take the efforts, the steps to make the process unfold. Because there are too many people on the internet that are discouraging people from taking the initiative, because they try to paint it in a negative light as if it's some miracle cure for it. Well, it's not really a miracle cure. It's what God intended. And when you find out that your natural rights have been hijacked and converted and perverted into what you call privileges and protections, most people are okay with that, because most people don't have the ability to defend themselves from the negative people in society. So they need the Roman Empire's henchmen to help them keep themselves safe. Hence, protections. When you have privileges and protections. So, I talk about this subject for days and days and days. It's just what I was spewing off the top of my head without trying to be scatterbrained, because you guys know that I bounce around from subject to subject or from topic to topic. Not meaning to, but I got a lot of information bouncing around in my nugget. And I'd love to share it with people. But you can't force people to listen. You can lead the horse to the water, but you can't force him to drink. And it is a lifestyle that has real world consequences to it. Because law enforcement in today's day and age, we're living in a police state. When I was a younger man, you get caught with, not that it's pretty much legal everywhere now, but when it wasn't, they'd make you dump it out, rub it into the ground, or they take it from you and they go smoke it themselves, or whatever they did. Drinking and driving, as immoral as it wasn't a big deal. Just the victimless crimes, non-violent victimless crimes back in the day, most cops turned a blind eye to it, but not today. The reason being is that we're in a financial situation when it comes to law enforcement. Unions who represent the police departments as a whole, they go negotiate budgets with municipalities, and they get huge budgets, and then they take a huge portion of those budgets and they contribute it to the union. The law enforcement has a union. They put it into their pension funds. So law enforcement officers have huge pensions when they retire after 25 years or 20 years, whatever. It might be a little smaller pension, but still, nonetheless. But the municipalities are reluctant to give huge budgets to where a good portion of it is given to, these union contributions for their pensions. So the municipalities and the unions have contractual agreements that, since they've invested so much more than they normally would into these law enforcement yearly annual budgets and the pension funds, the municipalities are demanding a return on their investment. And that return on their investment is no longer allowing victimless nonviolent crimes to be dismissed and not paid attention to. Law enforcement, I have no actual proof of it, but 2 + 2 is usually 4. I believe law enforcement are fulfilling their contractual agreements with the municipalities, and they have to prosecute anybody and everybody for everything. So, literally, we have been sold out by our fellow citizens, our neighbors who are law enforcement officers, so they can receive huge pensions when they retire. I got a buddy of mine who retired not long ago. Did his 25 years in a city department. He earned it. He earned a pension. But in my opinion, he didn't earn that good of a pension. He gets $80,000 a year. $80,000 a year pension. That's a lot of money. In contrast, my brother retired from Ford's, and his pension is only about $3,200 a month. And the older he gets, it could possibly go down. It went down when he was getting more when he was not collecting his Social Security. And then as soon as he started collecting his Social Security, it offset. So he lost a big portion of his pension, which is another part of the contractual agreement that the unions have to save them money. So there's a lot of negotiations that go on behind closed doors that you might not know about that have a big effect on the way things are ran out here. And people will tell me I'm nuts, I'm crazy. No, I'm not nuts and crazy. It's the truth. It's what's going on. It's a given. You know, we can literally see that the municipalities are doing exactly what I'm claiming they're doing. They're not letting people go. They're beating the shit out of anybody and everybody, and they're prosecuting anybody and everybody because them for probation. You'll be paying tether fees. You'll be paying all kinds of shit. You'll be paying drug tests. It's all about the money. It's not about the truth. It's not about right and wrong, knowing the difference. It's about the financial aspect of it. It's about control. So there's a lot to it. Most people don't care. When I talk about this stuff, most people don't have the guts to move forward. There's a lot to it too. There could be people are always complaining about paying taxes on their house. Oh, even though I own it, I paid it off, I still got to pay taxes. That's because you're a 14th Amendment citizen, and you're always going to pay for those privileges and protections, kind of like the mafia. Hey, you give us a little bit of money here, we won't come and tear your business apart. You know, we won't break your legs, right? So you could patent your land and remove it from the tax coffers, but there's consequences that are associated with that. You'll never be able to sell it to somebody if they try to get a commercial loan for it. It won't happen because you've patented your land and they cannot duplicate any documents on that land. So your only option is to either put it in a trust and keep it in family for forever, or you sell it for cash or gold, or you trade it, and that's the only way that you can sell it. Because somebody trying to buy your property cannot get a mortgage because you patent the land through the allodial title process. There's a lot of benefits to becoming a sovereign man. But most people are comfortable with peaceful slavery. They don't want that dangerous freedom. And that was pretty much my beef with YouTubers before I got gang stalked by the scumbag this time. I was focused on YouTubers that were providing harmful information through their content of getting people in situations that they probably wouldn't have been in if it wasn't for a shithead YouTuber giving them false information or misinformation or disinformation, whatever you want to call it. And that was my beef. That was my goal, was to get these guys to understand that state national status is not a joke. It's not some cockamamie bullshit that doesn't really exist, because it does. And if we had 1 million people stand up and say, I am Spartacus, and then the next guy says, no, I am Spartacus, and so on and so on, then we could get back to what this law was, or this land was intended to be, which was common law of the land. It's law enforcement back in the day was either a sheriff or a federal marshal. There were no municipal police departments. There were no county or no state police. If you look back into the history of law enforcement and where police departments derived from, they were slave apprehension teams. There'd be posses to go apprehend a slave who escaped from the plantation. And that's where law enforcement in this country derived its existence outside of the sheriff and federal marshals. So kind of ironic that we got police departments that originated from slave apprehension posses to where they are now. Still rounding up the slaves. Ain't that something? Slaves get out of line, here comes the apprehension teams. Just think about the Django with that Jamie Foxx in that movie Django. Slave apprehension teams. There's a lot more that I could talk about. I could talk about the financial aspect of it, the benefits. You can talk. There's a lot of things that I could share and talk about associated with state national status. But right now, I'm just talking about this. So I'm going to get off of here in a minute because this video won't render for God knows how long. The video I did earlier today, it's still in my catalog processing. And the only people that can see it are the ones who are subscribed to me, as far as I know. I could be wrong, but I think that's how it works, is that it's not available to the public in the algorithms until it's processed fully. I could be wrong, but I think that's what happens. And the only people that get to see it while it's in that mode are the people that were notified through ringing the bell on my channel as subscribers, or if they share it, somebody shares it or whatnot. But like I said, I could be wrong. So that's pretty much your lesson number one, your quick tutorial on sovereign status versus 14th Amendment citizen status. There's a lot more to it. Like I said, I've been studying this stuff for 40 years. I will never claim to know everything, but I know enough where I'm very confident in what I'm speaking, because I am the type of person that I will never speak on a topic that I don't wholly and completely ascribe to myself. If I don't believe it, I won't talk about it until I know for certain that I won't be providing any incorrect or inaccurate information. If I provide inaccurate or incorrect information at this time, it wasn't done maliciously and it wasn't done with any intent. It was done accidentally or because I have the lack of the knowledge that I thought that I had. But I don't believe that I'm lacking any knowledge. So just putting that little caveat in there. So anybody got any questions? No? Anybody? Bueller? Like I said, you can correct your status. You can take your federal taxes away from the government, but it'll have consequences. You won't get a refund check. Oh wow, you won't get a refund check, but you'll get an extra $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a month in your pocket if you're paying $300-400 a week in taxes. Depending on how much you pay in taxes a week, you'll get all that back. You can even do this shit on the state fucking level. There's limitations to it, but you can do it. There's a lot of information that comes associated with correcting status and become sovereign. But most people are too lazy to look into it or to have any want for change, because change is scary. Don't matter, whether it's changing your dentist because your current dentist is retiring, or changing a job, going from one job to the other. Most people will stay in a shitty job or stay with a shitty dentist because they're afraid of change. But change is good, especially when it benefits you. Yeah, no? Nobody wants to hear any more of my nonsense, huh? Is it gobbledygook to some of you? Somebody run over a skunk. Holy moly, it's strong. But yeah, I'm going to start bringing this content to you guys, and if you don't like it, I guess you'll just have to go find the drama elsewhere. And I'm going to start sharing. I'm going to start hiding behind the cross on this channel as well. I'll probably end up, if I get an opportunity, I'll share a sermon that I had. I listened to it earlier today. Funny enough, it just happened to coincide with the video that I did not long ago. The book of Matthew. It says there will be no peace, saith the Lord, those who are wicked. And I just happened to have the opportunity to hear a nice sermon about it, where it kind of solidifies my previous position for the last couple of months. People that say, "Oh, you're not a Christian." Well, Jesus carried a sword sometimes, It don't always have to be about peace. It doesn't always have to be about kindness. If you knew anything about the Bible, if you knew anything about Jesus, you would know that. So, it is what it is, man. I'll do you, and I'll do me. And those of you who want to stick around, spend your time listening or watching or absorbing the information that I provide, you're more than welcome to stick around. If you don't like it, don't come over here and disrupt, because you won't be welcome. It's your choice. To learn, to be learned, or to not be learned. That is the question. Stick around, I'll learn you. I'll learn you a thing or two. And as an ending note, at some point in time, I will be correcting my status, and I will let you guys follow me along my journey. Correcting my status, the whole 9 yards. I'll be traveling without a license or plate on my vehicle. I'll have my vehicles will be unregistered. And I'll show you how I handle law enforcement. Well, I suspect that I have some problems along the way, but not really. I'm not much of a shit starter when it comes to law enforcement, because I do respect them no matter what some people think. I don't respect the ones who don't respect me. That's the difference. So, if and whenever I have an encounter with law enforcement, once I correct my status, I won't fight them in the streets. I won't need to. I'll let them do what they do, and I'll go and discuss the information that needs to be discussed with the prosecutor, because that's who will be in charge of any negative consequences. The henchmen on the street don't have any say in that. They're just doing a job. They hem you up, they toss you into the next group, and then you deal with the prosecutors. And then when I go to the prosecutor and I say, "Do you think that I'm not qualified to be behind the wheel of a vehicle on the streets of roadways, byways?" Well, like I said, any prosecutor would be really hard pressed to try to prove that me, myself, and I don't have the skills to be behind the wheel of any type of vehicle. as I have a history and I can prove it, the prosecutor's going to say, oh, fuck, there's no way I'm going to be able to prosecute this guy and tell a jury that, or even a judge, that he's not qualified to be on the road. So they're not going to waste their time with me. It'll be that simple. Most people don't understand the hierarchy within their municipal structures. They just want to flap their gums and spew off some nonsense, and I'm over here listening to them. I'm like, man, these motherfuckers don't know nothing about the law. They have no clue. But ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss. All right, until the next stream of Bad Apple Media, I'm out. Peace. Chuck Woolery, 2 and 2. Haha.